So great to see you all here today. So many of you to join us. It's incredible. So my name is Oscar de Roos, and I work for WWF in the Netherlands. And that we are here today with so many of you actually shows again that more and more people are connected to their surroundings. It's beautiful to see that protecting and restoring nature is also in your interest, and that's actually what WWF is doing on a day-to-day basis. Around the world, WWF is working with 5,000 people on many different projects, and we cannot do this work without your support. And we also actually work with quite a number of partner organizations, which you will meet today during this webinar. So today we mostly focus on freshwater. That is my topic. Access to water is of vital importance to many people, to wildlife, to nature in general. And it's urgently needed that we start restoring our natural wonders in Europe. If you have a look at some figures here, then it's quite dramatic. Looking at the freshwater species, we are now encountering an 83% drop of biodiversity in freshwater around the globe since the 1970s, which is, of course, awful. And that's why we are trying to restore these freshwater ecosystems. And one of the main components to do that is connecting rivers again. And that's why we're talking about dam removal today. So why are dams actually bad for nature? Very short, fish cannot migrate from their spawning grounds to the ocean. Actually natural processes, the flow of sediments are blocked, and that's the reason why we're actually removing dams, obsolete dams in Europe. Ivan is also joining us today. We'll tell you all about this, but that's just in general a short introduction. We are also crowdfunding, and I like to show this slide to you. We are gathering funding for the removal of dams, but also to release sturgeon. 15,000 sturgeon are planned to be released in the Danube. We will hear a lot more about this from our colleagues in Eastern Europe. But this is the program for today. So what we will do first, a few questions just to see who's joining us, where are people from. We have a small movie for you later to share with you, which I hope you will enjoy. It's a short movie about our project related to the sturgeon release. We have a bit more stories about the crowdfunding, about dam removal and Dam Removal Europe movement from Ivan Hoving. And then I'm really looking forward to this, the project managers. So these are the ones that are actually doing the work in the field, in Ukraine, in Lithuania, in the UK. It's wonderful to have these people also here today. So first of all, just to start with a few questions, I would like to hear where most of you are from. So let's please fill this one in, and I can easily see where most of the people are from. I see, of course, quite a few numbers are from the Netherlands. I also see a few people indicating that they're from Eastern Europe. Thank you. We will open the poll for a bit longer. Okay, also some from the UK, Western Europe. Wonderful. No people from Scandinavia. Not yet, maybe they will join later. Wow. Okay, the vast majority is from the Netherlands, 90%. Great. So we were talking about dams already. Just for you to start guessing, how many dams and obstacles and rivers are there actually in Europe? Let's see what you guys think. All right, I see the vast majority is thinking around 100,000 dams in Europe. more and more people actually also think around 10,000. These are the 10,000, 100,000. Okay. 1 million. Some people even say 1 million. Well, I can actually tell you that indeed there are about 1 million dams in Europe built over the last 100, 150 years, of which many are obsolete, which means that they don't have a purpose anymore. And these are the dams we focus on first and foremost, removing those. Okay. And then lastly, so we were already talking about biodiversity. Let's talk a little bit about some of these iconic fish species. We talk about salmon, sturgeon, eel. Which one of these fish are actually almost extinct in Europe? If you look at the river Rhine flowing from the Alps through Germany, the border with France, all the way to the Netherlands, into the North Sea. So indeed, many of you think that the sturgeon is almost extinct. That's actually true. That's true, but I have to say that unfortunately, almost all of these fish, salmon and eel, are getting extinct due to dams and obstacles in rivers. So eel cannot go from the Saragossa Sea back to their spawning grounds. Of course, a few manage, but they are heavily endangered. And salmon, yeah, also for the Dutch audience, in the past, the Rhine was full of fish, full of salmon, but now indeed extinct. And we're trying to release them again. Okay, so here were the questions. Now I would like to go to my wonderful colleague Beate, who works for WWF Austria. Beate, can you hear me, and are you there?
I can hear you. I hope you can hear me and see me as well.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. I hope that everybody can see you too. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining, Beate. I have many questions for you today, but maybe first we should start with a movie to see and to hear a bit more about the project you are currently working on. And then after that, I would like to know why you are so motivated personally to work on this project. So Beate, you are now based in Austria. In the meantime, I'm starting the video. You've been working for 19 years already for WWF, which is, of course, great that you are dedicated for this cause for so many years. Well, now, as I said, focus mostly on the sturgeon globally. And here is a movie I would like to share with you. So that was a great introduction to your work. In the meantime, by the way, before we get started, I receive a lot of questions. For example, how do we categorize a dam? How do we define a dam? We define dams and obstacles as long as fish cannot pass, migrate through from up and down the river. Of course, there are many different dams. We're talking about hydropower dams. We're talking about weirs. we're talking about well, dikes, levees, and so there's many of these obstacles actually in the river. But maybe also Beate can tell me a bit more later on about, okay, what are the most important threats to the sturgeon actually in the Danube region? Is it also that the sturgeon is almost extinct because of hydropower dams, Beate?
Also, yes. I mean, historically, sturgeon populations were just overexploited. I mean, these fish are really valuable. And a couple of decades ago, many fishermen survived through sturgeon fishing. I mean, they depended on it. And they just overfished, and the consumption was really big and the demand was really big for caviar. So this was the historic reason why the populations crashed, actually. And then dams building did on top of that. Of course, damage to the access of the fish to the spawning grounds. What we see here, these two pictures, these are actually fish that are still poached today. So it's an ongoing threat. Also, due to the dwindling populations, much less. And as sad as these pictures might look, they also show a success for the work that WWF is doing currently on the lower Danube, because both of these sturgeons have been released again. So the border police caught these fishermen illegally catching sturgeon, and they stopped them and they released these fish back into the waters. So we are
yeah, that's great.
Very, very densely and extensively with these enforcement authorities, and we're seeing results. So we're very hopeful that this will stop and in the future.
Okay, so we are going from the threats already right into the detail. Fish are being caught. But first, maybe Beate, just also a bit more about your personal motivation. People would like maybe to hear also that. So how come that you are so dedicated to protect these almost dinosaur-like fish species?
Yeah. Well, I'm a zoologist from training, and my first encounter with these fish was in 2005 through a very small project. But I was just fascinated by these big fish and these fascinating, I mean, they grow to 7 or 8 meters. They can reach an age of more than 150 years. And they're just very complicated life cycles. And I just don't know, I was fascinated from the start. And since 2017, I was lucky enough to dedicate now my time fully to these fish and the coordination of WWF's work on that in mainly Europe, but actually all over the world, the Northern Hemisphere, where they appear.
Wonderful. So that's a very inspiring story, if you ask me. But what makes this fish such a special species? I was saying already, referring it to as being almost like a dinosaur. Many of us know the sturgeon because of the caviar production. But what else makes this species such a special one?
Yeah, I mean, look at this picture. It's probably one of the biggest sturgeons ever caught on picture. It comes from the Russian. And the smaller picture below is probably from the Elbe River in Germany. So these are just huge fish. I mean, and these records are probably over. We'll never see a 7 or 8 meter fish again, or at least we don't see it at the moment. But they still reach sizes of 2 to 3 meters. So I think that already is fascinating. But for WWF and our work, I think they are also important for other reasons. They are a good flagship for free-flowing rivers connected to the seas. That's one of the reasons we chose to work on them, of course. They are great for communication. You can really tell great stories. They are economically very valuable. That's another thing. People listen if you talk about these fish, because it's also something that can be calculated in cash. What's this fish worth? Yeah, and then it just they are the most threatened group of species on this planet, according to the IUCN latest assessments. So I think there are many reasons why we as WWF think these are important, and why I'm especially so dedicated to them as well.
Okay, Wonderful. So tell us, this is of course a story which is not too positive, but I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. We can actually do something to protect and restore the population of sturgeon. So what is WWF doing to bring them back to our rivers?
Yeah, so the project we are now fundraising for is one of the things we're doing. And I'll come to that in a second. But first of all, and the most important for the region that we're working in at the moment, the lower Danube, is to stop this poaching. And as I said at the beginning, we're seeing some progress on that, slowly. I mean, these changes always take time. You also have to work with the fishing communities, involve them, make them aware of it, and many of them are opening up now, are trusting us to talk to us. So we're really seeing positive changes, but it takes time. At the same time, we do have to restock these populations. They are really in a status that without restocking, they won't survive. And this is what we want to do with your help, from everybody on the call and all our donors in across Europe. So we have the opportunity to buy from a producer, from an aquaculture producer, fish, beluga fingerlings. They're still 5 or 6 grams small, very small fish. And we will plan to release them probably in June, depending a bit on the COVID situation. So we might need to reshuffle a bit, but probably this summer, certainly this summer. And they're going to be 10-15 centimeters big only when we release them into the water. And then they will swim downwards from, yeah, you see here my colleague Stoyan, who is the sturgeon expert from WF Bulgaria, who is then really doing this work, will tag all these little fish so that we have a possibility also to monitor them, where they go.
Yeah, so what we see here so here we see already the release of the sturgeon in previous attempts. And this time, again, I by the way also see some questions coming in. Indeed, this is the beluga sturgeon.
The biggest one?
The biggest ones, yes. They're very tiny, as you said, but...
Excuse me.
I'm sorry?
What you see in the pictures was a Russian sturgeon.
Okay.
From the release last year. And what we're going to release this year is going to be the beluga sturgeon. So there are still 4 species in the Danube River, in the lower Danube River, that is still connected to the Black Sea. They have 800 kilometers of free flowing stretch there, which is also very important. They still have spawning grounds to access on this stretch. So we're very lucky, and we have that's also why we focus our work there, and why a release makes sense in that region.
Yeah, and you were saying that you were actually going to tag the fish. These are tiny, as you said. So is that even possible? All these 15,000 piece by piece will be tagged?
It's a lot of work, and my colleagues in Bulgaria are just looking into support from 1 or 2 other experts that can help them with that. But we will try, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So already you were saying, of course, we depend on our donors' support. We are indeed crowdfunding also today. And how much would it be then for such tiny fish to be able to release them as WWF? How much money are we talking about? We're
talking €2.50 per fish. The more we raise, the more we can buy as well.
Okay.
So I think whatever you can contribute to this great project is really appreciated, and even I mean a little amount of money make a big difference here. So really hoping for your support.
Thank you so much. And maybe Beate, we are indeed also looking at all the questions coming in. Thank you, people, for asking those questions. Please continue to do so. One question I here see is, why are we focusing on such a big fish? But do we lose the smaller ones out of sight? Or is it simply because this one is for example, nicer for fishermen? What do you think, Beate, about this?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think it's a mixture of both. I think, first of all, for communication, these big fish do, of course, make a big impression to the audience. And to be very open, I think that's also a reason why we work on them. But then again, I think they are a flagship for many other fish. So, for example, if you talk about opening dams for sturgeon to pass, this is going to be a benefit for so many other freshwater species as well. Because if you make this big fish pass, then everything else can pass as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a clear story. So indeed, here we see the web page. It's in 8 different languages, and there's also a QR code which you can use. Please go to this website, and you can easily find wonderful examples of people who are actually crowdfunding themselves too for this species. For example, a lady called Stur from her surname, and she started this campaign in her own neighborhood and raised already a few hundred euros. And almost 8,000 euros in total has been gathered already. We are looking for 15,000 together. So let's hope we can meet that today with all the people here listening to this wonderful webinar and looking at all the footage and your story, Beat. It was a very nice and short but nice story from your side. Thanks for sharing the insights, and I hope that many of these people. I see one more question. Can you tell anything about the success rate of the release of the sturgeon? Is it already proven to be successful in the past with these tags? Can you say something about this?
We cannot say too much because we did it the first time last year. But from there, we saw that start over. The release is going to happen in Bulgaria, and then these fish move downwards, and they're going to pass Romania and Ukraine, and then they're going to be in the Black Sea for several years until they migrate back up to Bulgaria to spawn. And what we do is we inform the scientists along all these countries, and then if they do the monitoring further downstream or along the Black Sea coast, they can screen these fish when they find them, and they can see this tag and read the number and then inform us back and say, look, we found this one beluga, for example, and it's probably from your release. So this is how we can calculate it. But it will take some time until we can really say the success rates of these fish. But it's being done all over Europe, these releases, and with quite good successes, especially in France, in the Gironde River. And we're learning from there as well, and we're exchanging with a lot of scientists, and we have great partnerships with IUCN and many, many scientists from other universities.
Okay, thank you, Beate. We unfortunately have to continue, but anyways, wonderful again. Thanks for joining, and hope to talk to you soon again.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Bye. Let's now go to Marlou, my wonderful colleague, Marlou. I will switch.
Hi, Oscar.
Hello.
I've been made a presenter. Not
yes.
Yet. I don't receive your webinar chance. Can you see my screen? Yes, I see it.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Oscar.
So Marlou, you are already working for WWF for 25 years. You are a true panda hero, as we say. And now you are a senior marketeer working on crowdfunding, not only for sturgeon and dam removal, but you can also tell us maybe a bit more about the background of crowdfunding.
Yeah,
please
thank
go
you.
ahead.
Yes, I already work for WWF for 28 years. And in fact, in these years, I've seen communication changing from sending out leaflets to public you didn't know to really projects with communities and people in the field. So now you really have contact with the people through social media, through crowdfunding. This other art of communication in crowdfunding, you see this brings all together, in fact. Because with crowdfunding, you see that with very, very little small projects, you really can change a lot on the ground. So I see crowdfunding as a kind of catalyst, because we have small cases on the ground. The crowdfunding projects are small projects of 10,000 euros or 15,000 euros. But with these cases, you really see that other countries are inspired to take this over. They're copying the idea, in fact. And what is so beautiful about the crowdfunding is that people and communities and other organizations can really use the platform and take the matters into their own hands. And it can become very personal, because you can bring up your own dam. And in the Netherlands, we have a project that major donors of WWF can really remove their own dam. And this is very special, that you can do something with your own hands. And so we see that crowdfunding is not only about the funds, but it's about real engagement. And engagement can be a word, but we see it as money and knowledge, and the network comes together. So we really use the knowledge of the people and our network. So we started 2 years ago with crowdfunding for dam removal. We funded already 14 dams, and I'm happy that we already removed 12 dams. We did this with 10,000 donors from 10 countries. And thanks to these partners and colleagues, and we have them today in the webinar too, we translated, in fact, all together the platform in 8 languages, which is very nice. And then we have reactions from all over Europe. People like this kind of projects, and even in the time of Corona, you see that people even more are motivated to fund and to join forces. And now with this day, we have a special targets, because we know that we are with a lot of people from a lot of countries. So we really want more funders from more countries. We have projects online for the sturgeon, which Beate just told about us. And we have even dams in Ukraine and in the UK, which we want to fund today and the days after this day. If you fund these projects, we call you a dam remover. And this certificate you will have at home. And it's our dream that the lineup of this project's leaders becomes bigger and bigger, and the amount of dam removers will grow. So please join the crowdfunding today, and just take your phone and scan the QR code and pick a project you want to fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlou. Great story. We receive again a few questions immediately. Maybe I would like to answer one. Somebody is saying, okay, you're now removing 15 dams. Isn't this, only such a little percentage of the total number of dams as we have discussed earlier? True, true. But it's not just us, WWF, removing these dams. In Europe, in total, there are already 4,000 dam removals ongoing. And us, WWF, and we are not able to do this on our own. As I said, we are also working together with many partner organizations. You will hear more about them in the round table soon, in a few minutes. But also the European Commission, they are responsible for river management. They are removing actually dams themselves. So last year I went to Estonia, and there the government is removing dams and freeing 3,000 kilometers of river for salmon to be able to return. So it's and this. Just to say, these 15 dams is indeed something we, together with your support, can contribute to. But now let's listen to Ivan. Ivan is from Dam Removal Europe, and he can now share his screen and hopefully also turn on his webcam. Yes, there you are, Ivan. Please go to presenter mode. Wonderful, great that you are joining us today. You are based all the way up in the north of the Netherlands, in Groningen, and you work for the World Fish Migration Foundation. Which is a global organization advocating for free-flowing rivers and dam removal. Great once again that you want to share your story today. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much, Oscar. Thank you. And wonderful to be here with all you here. Over 166 attendees I see now. It's a bit weird to just be talking to your screen, of course, but I know you're all there. I'd like to just come back to the remark Beate was saying. If you can make this big fish pass, then others can go too. That's very important for me, and that's what we're all about. I'd like to thank you, Oscar and Malou, for this cooperation, of course, and I'd like to also thank WWF the Netherlands for hosting this crowdfunding website. I just saw that QR code, so I please invite everyone to start donating, hopefully for the sturgeons of Beate. And of course, I have a couple of projects for you myself. My name is Ivan Hoving. I'm a project manager of Dam Removal Europe. And last Thursday, something really remarkable happened to all of us within our foundation, within the World Fish Migration Foundation. We did a 24 hours marathon webinar on the global swimways. About 50+ presenters from all over the world: Oceania, Asia, Africa, Europe, North America. They're all sharing their presentations with us about migratory fish. And it was an amazing feat to do this together with the team and all the volunteers that were involved. And what we would like to do is to ask attention for all these fish that need room to go from the sea up the rivers, either to grow up or to spawn. And everywhere in the world, this is very important to have attention for this and to make way.
Yeah, Ivan, maybe going back to that slide, it's a wonderful map of the world. Maybe you can indicate, for example, the eel, in Dutch, the paling. They live in the Netherlands, less and less so. In our lakes and little streams, but where can you maybe indicate with your mouse, where do they all the way need to go and migrate?
Well, it's a travel of about 6,000 kilometers, and they in the Sargasso Sea.
Yes.
Where they.
So this is one of these swimways, and you now have mapped.
Yeah, you can see the eel here. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yep, Dam Removal hosts, Dam Removal Europe is actually a partnership between 7 NGOs. One of them is WWF NL, many others. So if you just go to the website and click on About, and you will see of all these organizations that are involved. Now the website is an excellent website and hosts all kinds of news, a map of removed dams and case studies from 11 countries now. So I would invite you to go to this website and have a look. Of course, we have social media like Facebook, Instagram, and every month there's a newsletter. Now this is what we want, and this is what we almost forget about, right? It's hundreds of years ago, these rivers was full of fish, and it's something we would like to go back to. And I would like to get the opportunity now for all of you to also get your telephone and share the crowdfunding website to all your friends, all your family, everyone that you know. Just put it on your Facebook, share it, and that's what we would like to share, to connect. Now, this is going back to the sturgeon. This is what fish actually need. They need free passage, growing up in the river, using the sea, and then go back into the river to spawn again. The life cycle of the life cycle of the European sturgeon also is in Holland, but because big dikes and big sluices, we block their way. You see a little blue dot here. There's even a place in the Biesbos in Nederland, in Holland, which is called Steurgat. Many years ago, these fish were caught there. And they can go actually really big. They can grow up to 6 meters. They're huge. And when I read in preparation of this presentation, I read that these fish could put up a big fight when they were caught, and they would sometimes rip someone's shoes. Now, if there are dikes and if there are sluices and they can't go in there, it's just a matter for them to wait at sea until we do something about it. And this is what a big dam looks like in a river. This is a huge dam in France, blocking the river, and you can imagine how this structure totally blocks everything that's in the river. There's no way they can go up and down here. So we're actually drowning our rivers. But there's some good news. We can, there is attention, there's a growing attention for migratory fish, and we are opening up. We're making openings in the dikes. We're making openings in the Afsluitdijk very soon, and we are removing old and obsolete dams where we can. Doing this work, you meet all kinds of people. And in 2018, I went with a Dutch journalist to Estonia, where I met Kuli Tamur, project manager here, working at the Panu River. And this was a story that nobody knew of. And it's just such a wonderful story of this huge dam that is blocking the whole river. It's only 15 kilometers to the sea, and it blocks the way for thousands and thousands of kilometers upriver. And they are actually removing it.
So Ivan, in the meantime, we received questions. Are governments also paying for the removal of these dams? For example, this dam we are seeing here now in Estonia?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, it's in this particular case, cohesion money is being used. That's European funded money. And money from the Ministry of Estonia, and together it was paid for.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not only us and donors, but also governments take their responsibility. Great to hear. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now it's all about it's all about working on these rivers and opening up these rivers. This river actually will go up for 3,000 kilometers. About 8 dams will be removed, and also a few people got caught in these dams. They can sometimes be really dangerous as well. And I think around 20 people have died over the past 40 years swimming here. And so the Estonian Fire Department was very happy that this dam went as well. Now, Dam Removal Europe is a network organization. What we try to do is connect people, is to connect organizations, science, government, policymakers, river managers. And what we like to do is to share the stories. And here you see Kuli and together with the head of communication of Estonia, working together with us when we had a Dam Removal Europe seminar right at that place last year. We like to highlight people, and that's why we started on Instagram our River Heroes series. So we highlight people that are involved in dam removals. Check it out. Like I say, it's connecting people, it's connecting fish and rivers. So Dam Removal Europe has started in 2016 to inspire, to share, to create awareness and to connect. And now 4 years later, we want to scale this up. We want to use this positive energy, and we would like you to be involved in this. So if you have any dams that you think are obsolete, that are ready to go, or somehow else you want to get involved, please get in contact with me and become part of it. Now remember that big dam I showed in that river? It's a river, the Saloon in France, 100 years ago, famous for its huge salmon. This is what is left of it. And it's an amazing story. There's another dam in this river, and that goes next year. And then this river is available for migratory fish to swim up and down again. I'd like to thank you all.
Ivan.
And please have a look, subscribe to the newsletter, have a look at the social media, and of course, help us out with this crowdfunding, because after me, 5 project managers will be talking about their dam removals and their dams that are either crowdfunded or will be soon, hopefully by you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ivan. It was very insightful presentation. Let's go to the next round, the round table with our heroes in the field from Ukraine, Lithuania, the UK. We have made a selection because we could have invited many others. But first, maybe going to some questions again. We received very interesting questions, for example, about fish ladders. Also in the Netherlands, many fish ladders are being built, and people are asking us the question, isn't this a solution too? Well, we can be quite clear about this. In some cases, fish ladders indeed might be one part of the solution, but in general, also in the Netherlands, more than half of the fish ladders are actually not effective. So that means that well, it's not really a solution to the problem we're trying to solve. Maintenance costs and maintenance for these ladders is also a huge task, which many of public authorities, local authorities don't have the capacity, the resources to do so. And besides, we are talking about fish now because that's a clear story around these dams, but dams also obstruct the flow of sediment, for example. So from the Alps all the way down to the Netherlands, small stones become sand and they flush as sediment into the ocean. And that is actually a nutrient also for the biodiversity living there. Fish, but also other algae and organisms live from that. In addition, countries are being built by sediment deltas, like the Netherlands. We are a delta. If there are no free-flowing rivers bringing sediment to the delta, what we see also in the Netherlands, countries actually go down, they sink. So that's happening in the Mekong Delta, in Bangladesh, but also in the Netherlands. We're sinking below sea level even more and more, whereas the sea level is rising. So also this is an important note. But here today, let's focus again on the removal of some of these dams. Now I would like to go to first to Olga, our WWF colleague in Ukraine. Let's see Olga, there you are. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing your webcam. Let's go to your map and the location of the dam. Olga, thanks so much for joining. You are a fresh water manager in Ukraine, as I said, and you developed a systematic approach for dam removal. And you already started actually with the removal of 3 dams, for which we have crowdfunded via our platform around 16,000 euros last month, quite successfully. That is, of course, wonderful. Before we dive into this topic, Olga, I would like to share a movie again, because we have beautiful footage from you and your region. So let's start with that. I hope that everybody has its sound on.
Please join us in our exciting journey to free Carpathian rivers from the Thames and Bereas. Even small donation can make a huge difference. Let it flow!
Thank you, Olga. Wow, what a wonderful introduction to your region. Once again, this is the map where the dam is located. The dams are located that you will soon remove. Thanks so much for joining and creating this footage for the audience today. Please tell us a bit more about the local context. What can we actually learn from your experience in Ukraine? Is dam removal already seen as a great solution to migratory fish issues?
Sadly, not yet, because we are a country with quite small amount of freshwater resources. So we experience drought every year. So it's quite hard to talk about removing barriers on the rivers when people see drought. So we are trying to explain that free flowing rivers will bring actually more water. So that is why we started with the area where the most clean waters of Ukraine located at the Carpathian Mountains. And that's the area that, because of 200 years history of logging and bringing wood down to the plain, we have the obstacle dams, which look like ancient structures. And we are working together with a partner, that is Verkhovensky National Park, and that's our first dam, Lostunets, that will be removed this summer. Now we are signing the contract with the land owner, which is National Park, and as soon as, according to the law, only after 15th of June we can start any work on the river. Construction worker will go high in the mountain and will start removing the dam. And that's the photo.
So we are talking about this dam. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so this is the dam, a huge pile of stone and timber, as we can see on this picture, but also here a bit more close-up photo of the dam. So this dam is actually already 100 years old or even older.
It's more than 100 years old, yes. You
Okay,
can
so
imagine yes, very strong construction to resist flood in the mountains over so a lot of years. That's why it's quite expensive to remove it, because we need to take heavy machinery up to the mountains. That is more than 1,000 meters above the sea level.
okay, so the location of the dam is very isolated in a region where lots of other wildlife probably also roams around. Can you tell us a bit? So we are talking about fish today, but are there also bear and wolf?
We are definitely talk about bears, because they are getting protein from fish in the Carpathians. Not a lot of bears are left in Carpathians. It's exactly the area of habitat of bears and lynx, and we have all the wildlife. It depends on the river. So that's most untouched area in the Carpathians. That's why we think it's very important to give rivers and resources, because that is kind of refuge area for the old wildlife, where wildlife can escape during the changing climate.
Yeah, so what you see here is another great example of when you remove a dam, the entire ecosystem of that region can be restored too. So not only fish again can migrate to their spawning grounds, but also predators who feed from these species can actually thrive again. And their young cubs from those bears will survive in their first years because of an abundance of fish. What makes this region so special to you personally? Are you, for example, from this region in Ukraine?
No. I am from completely different region, but I think this is the area which is very special to the whole people of Ukraine, because it's probably one of the most symbolic and charismatic areas where people maintain their culture. They still wear national dress on all the occasion, and they're very proud of their culture. So probably my personal connection is that I really want my son, my grandchildren see this area as how it is now, and even better. I believe
Right.
that's why.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So very short, last few remarks. So what can we expect next? We have successfully crowdfunded 16,000 euros last month. Now the dam will be removed. What else?
Because we are really trying to make it a systematic way, we will make barriers of all the barriers in the area of the cherry marsh rivers. And we will start ecological monitoring together with the park to see how the dam removal impact fish population in the area. To make more scientific background, we will start talking to the state organization and the stakeholders, convincing them that yes, dam removal is important and we should go for it. And that's a photo of my colleague who is a ichthyologist, and the lady who will be doing actually fish monitoring studies.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much once again, Olga, for sharing your personal story. I hope to see you soon again. Take care and bye-bye. Let's go to the next guest, Carolina. Carolina from Lithuania. Please turn on your webcam, Carolina, and your sound. I hope that you are there. Yes, we can see you. Wonderful. So Carolina, you are actually the co-founder of the Lithuanian Fund for Nature. And here we see
Lithuanian WWF.
Yes, the Lithuanian WWF. Wonderful. You are one of the newest additions to our family. So here we see a map of the region, the Baltic states, and there you see also in red the dot of the area where you are active now. So please tell us more first and foremost, tell us about your mission. What makes you so passionate about removing of these dams?
Well, to begin with, I was always really passionate about the concept of wilderness and bringing back the wilderness and restoring the ecosystems. And I have also, I'm really connected to nature just personally. I grew up with spending quite a lot of time with rivers and forests, and I just wanted to make more of it, you know. So as you see in the picture, this is me actually in Poland, but it's a huge free-flowing river section that is, I think, is really beautiful. So I just want to spread this beauty personally.
Yeah. So many of these rivers in Lithuania are actually protected and should be restored by local governments, and you are enforcing and advocating for this, or how do you see your role in to make this happen?
Yes. So I have started about 2 years ago, and first of all, once I just learned the concept of dam removal, I was doing a little research on how dam removal is pursued in foreign countries, so other countries than Lithuania. And so I tried to connect experts and make them talk, also experts from abroad and Lithuanian experts together, just to bring this concept into the country. And yeah, right now I'm advocating for and pushing forward to make actual removals. But as you mentioned, yes, Lithuanian rivers are protected by law, and you cannot build literally on any of them, any dams. Yeah.
So we're talking fish again, but also I see many other beautiful species. What is the current status of the environment and biodiversity in Lithuania? Are you also seeing massive declines?
Yeah, unfortunately we do. Lithuania is no different from most of European countries. So, and with this exactly figure, I just wanted to portray that fish, of course, is very central to rivers and very important and mostly vulnerable, but healthy river ecosystem is not only fish, but it's also other species like otters, beavers, and kingfishers. So free-flowing rivers can actually restore the whole ecosystem and the whole picture of the biodiversity. And yeah, and it's more than only fish. And the sad reality that Lithuania, and as Ivan talked, and many others, most of these barriers have no purpose. So we have lots of old and obsolete dams that are falling apart. They're not having any role in our society. So removing them is the only reasonable and logical, let's say, management option. And that we would, as a society, we would not lose anything, but we will also really contribute a lot to environment.
Okay, so as you say, many of them are obsolete. Are you already removing one dam, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so we are talking here about the Bražuolė River, and I call the dam also Bražuolė. So the river itself is really nice and beautiful. It's a salmon river. You can get salmon and trout spawning in it, also beavers and many other species of mollusks. So it's a fantastic river, but just by the how you call it, delta, the opening of the river, you get this dam, and as you see from the picture, is falling apart. It's in a really bad status, and during the droughts, it dries quite heavily. So it's really not a nice thing to have. And by removing it, we could really contribute. We could restore a river and also contribute to Natura 2000 area, to restoration and making it better.
So after this dam, you will also remove a little bit more dams?
Well, yeah, that's the plan. So Bražuolė is going to be removed, is planned to be removed in July. And we are hoping that this is going to inspire other dam removals in country. And just a little secret, another dam is already inspired us. So here you see the Salantay Dam is actually quite reasonable. And dam that is certainly a big block in the vein, in the artery, you know. So this dam removal is also planned, and hopefully it's going to be removed soon. And hopefully there's going to be more and more dams removed in Lithuania.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining, Carolina, and all the best.
Thank you.
Okay, we have to move on. Also looking at the time, already 5 o'clock, 15 more minutes to go. We are now going to the Danube Delta, to the Black Sea. Misha from Rewilding Europe is joining us. He's the executive director of Rewilding Ukraine, and he already works for 20 years in nature conservation, formerly also a WWF employee, but now he works for a wonderful organization called Rewilding Europe. In the most recent years, Misha, you focused on rewilding and river restoration and large herbivore reintroduction projects such as the bison. And since 2017, you are the team leader of the Danube Delta in Ukraine. And that's what we will be discussing today. You've also created a wonderful video, which I'd like to share with the audience first, before we go to you.
We are at the Danube Biosphere Reserve in Ukraine, in the delta of the three small rivers Kogilnik, Kagachka and Sarata. As most of the small rivers in the northern Black Sea coast, these rivers were canalized and actually destroyed in the Soviet era. They were straightened, they were deepened. All the floodplain along these rivers was used for agriculture. That was part of the Soviet policy in the 20th centuries after the war and famine especially. Nowadays we see the impact of those policies and activities. Most of these rivers are degraded and there is no more agriculture possible in these degraded areas. The land is eroded, the meadows that used to be rich and used for grazing of livestock are dry and salinized, and the fish and the birds are gone. Several nature conservation organizations in Europe, including Rewilding Europe, WWF, World Fish Migration Federation, came together and established an initiative called European Dam Removal Initiative that supports this project to remove obsolete dams in Europe. So many obsolete dams in Europe, on average every European river has one dam per kilometer. Within this initiative we have a very interesting mechanism called crowdfunding. If we have a small dam and what we're looking for is a little bit of funding to remove an obsolete dam, we can put this project on crowdfunding. And this is exactly what we've done with this project in Ukraine. And first of all, we thank to all the people who supported with their donation this project. Already this year 10 dams were removed and we can see the first results. There's already some water coming to the floodplains of these rivers. But I think most of the results will be visible next year in spring, when the flood waters will come in a full scale in the deltas of these rivers, and they will be again home for fish, for birds and for mammals. We also hope that the floodplain meadows, once restored, will be used by local communities again for grazing their cattle. This will be a very diverse and rich in terms of biodiversity place in the Danube Biosphere Reserve, which we hope will also attract visitors not only to this place but also to communities. So on behalf of the Danube Biosphere Reserve, Rewilding Europe, Rewilding Ukraine, I'd love to thank again all the people who supported this interesting project, and we hope that there will be more and more projects like this across Europe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Misha. So that was already a very informative movie with a great aerial footage. Here again we see also a photo of the actual removal. Tell us a bit about your role. Were you actually digging the hole here in the ground?
Well, actually this area, these dams, they were parts of the very large irrigation scheme put in the Soviet era. And some of these dams were just put as roads to get access to pumping stations. And then the pumping station stopped operating, and these dams were obsolete, and the roads were obsolete as well. So what we had to do is to remove the dams, and well, basically you see the roads, including the roads as well. And as it is in the mouth of the big lagoon, when the wind blows in the good direction, there's already a lot of water entering the mouth of the river. So you see the landscape is transforming very fast.
Okay, so just also looking at the time and given your informative movie, can you just give us a bit more information about the wildlife that is living here? What do you already see returning?
Well, this is well, a part of the huge Danube Delta, which is teeming with wildlife. In here, in this particular site, you find colonies of herons. There are many duck species. There are also many mammals. Otters can be found here, wildcats, European mink. These are the rare species of large carnivores, golden jackal, foxes. So this is quite a rich place in the Danube Biosphere Reserve. But unfortunately, this year we're in one of the most severe droughts. I think over the last 100 years in South Ukrainian, we're experiencing huge drought as a result of climate change. And this area is rather dry, frankly, this year, but we hope that there will be more rainfall later on in June.
Okay, yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Misha. We are receiving quite a number of questions. Sorry that we are not able to answer all of them, but this what you're just saying is actually relating to some of these questions. So dams can actually also have a purpose to store water, for example, reservoirs that can then be used for irrigation, but also for hydropower development. And we as WWF, Rewilding Europe, and other organizations indeed acknowledge that dams in the past had this purpose, but nowadays we see so many other solutions that are feasible, nature-based solutions that actually room for the river, like we see here, restoring floodplains, restoring wetlands that nature can take over, take control, water can stay for longer periods of time, and droughts can actually be mitigated, given these natural processes. So I would just like to highlight that indeed this is also a wonderful nature-based solutions for droughts, if we bring back water to these areas. Thanks again, Misha. We have two more guests, a few more minutes left. I would like to go to the UK, to Adam Wheeler from the Ribble Rivers Trust. Thank you, Adam, for being patient. You are based here in the UK, in the center of England. Give us, please, a short introduction of the project you have been working on. This dam we see here, removed over the last 2 years. What was your result so far?
Yeah. So Smithies Brook is an important tributary of the Ribble for salmon and sea trout spawning. It's home to a number of other conservationally important species like lamprey and European eel. The barrier itself, it's not one of the huge dams that we've seen in other cases, but it was installed by an angling club to supposedly create pool habitat for fish. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. It simplified the river, created a barrier to migration, and it's led to degradation either side of it with fine sediments. Again, it might not be a large scale removal, but we've actually seen really good results from removal. So the habitat has become more complicated, and that we've seen an improvement in the number of invertebrates as well in the area.
Okay, wonderful. So as we all know, the UK is quite densely populated, and also here on this picture we see a number of people involved. So how, the question to you, how is this dam removal activity perceived by local communities, and are there actually also many people involved in the actual work?
Yep, so the Ribble Trust really likes to involve volunteers. We use it as education and also a way of engaging people with their environment. So within this removal, we did a fish rescue beforehand, so we could show them what species resided around the weir. And we also got local volunteers and members of the angling club to come and actually take out the weir itself with hand saws. So that was yeah, really good day.
Okay, wonderful. So thanks, Adam. It was quick, short, but very informative and great to see these pictures of small fish species being found in these streams again. Thanks so much. Keep up the good work. Let's go to Jack Bloomer from the Chainley Burn in the UK again. You are Deputy Director of the Tyne Rivers Trust, and you work on large-scale projects to improve river habitat, including, of course, fish passes. You lead all sorts of projects locally. You even have a PhD. You're a true expert. Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. Please share us a bit more about your story, and reconnecting nature here to history. I was told that actually many of these obstacles and dams in the UK are also going back decades, years and years, millennia, even the Romans, medieval times. What is true about all this?
Yeah, absolutely. So so I very lucky to work on the River Tyne, which is the best salmon river in England. It's got more salmon than any other river in England, but it's still been heavily impacted by humans, as you say, for millennia, going back to the Roman times. And there are dams really throughout the whole catchment. The dam that we are hoping to have removed through any the generous donations of anyone watching today is called Chainley, but it's on a stream called Chainley Burn. It's a really, really interesting stream. It's got a very interesting history. Its source is next to Hadrian's Wall. So it flows along Hadrian's Wall for a bit and then through a Roman fort. So it's been really heavily impacted by human activity, going back to the time of Hadrian, which is, as you say, nearly 2,000 years ago. So there are a lot of dams on the stream that we're hoping to remove. So we're hoping with the support of people watching that we'll be able to kind of kickstart that process and remove the most downstream dam. And then in future, we'll be able to work upstream and remove these other two dams that you've got photos up of here now.
Okay, so these dams are actually a major obstacle for migratory fish. What kind of species are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we've got as I said, we've got a lot of salmon in the Tyne. So the dams are stopping any salmon migrating up and getting their first view of Hadrian's Wall for quite a while. But we also have important species like trout, sea trout. There are eel in these streams, and as we've mentioned earlier in the presentations, there's all those other species that rely on them, like kingfishers and otters. And we also have a very rare species called the freshwater pearl mussel in the Tyne. It's only found in a few rivers throughout Europe, and actually the earliest stages of its life cycle, the juveniles live on the gills of salmon. So any benefits we can have for salmon have knock-on benefits for other really important species.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing this. Indeed, you were saying this project is also on our crowdfunding platform. We have this crowdfunding platform open to everyone, also in the UK. People are donating already. Actually, this is the end now of the webinar. We are 5:15. Maybe the others who have presented today can also start their webcam again. I would like to thank all the participants, the attendees, almost 200 people today listening to this story of fish migration, dam removal, crowdfunding for these small-scale projects that can actually make an impact on the ground. I'd like to thank everybody who was here also today asking us questions. We received so many of them that we were not able, unfortunately, to answer them all. Many have been answered by our colleagues from WWF from the WebCare. Some questions still remain to be answered. I will personally look into those and hope to get back to you. You can also contact me through LinkedIn or of course through the website. You can find my details there. So once again, I would like to thank all of you today, Ivan, Marlou, our panel that spoke here today, Beate, a bit more in detail about the sturgeon project. Thanks so much for these insights. Well, let's hope for a brighter future for all of us and migratory fish. Bye-bye.